So it's a beautiful evening and I noticed a fair is on down the road, so I thought, why not do a little bit of time-lapse photography? So for this little venture I will be taking a camera, that's a 5D Mark III with a 24-70 lens, a variable ND filter, tripod, it's quite important, and an intervalometer. You can pick these up on Amazon for about 10 to 15 quid, I'll put a link in the description, but you can use these if your camera doesn't have a built-in time-lapse feature, like mine doesn't, and like all the other Canons don't, because Canon doesn't do that for some reason, except in the G7X, but not in its better cameras. I don't know why. Now, time-lapse has really become popular in the past few years, largely because of Casey Neistat and people wanting to imitate his style. So it seems to be in everyone's vlogs all over YouTube, and it's great to see. But what people always do is they seem to use very high shutter speed, so you get quite a choppy look to it, including Casey himself. What I like to do is I like to leave the shutter open for longer. As it's video, I like to get as near as I can to the 180-degree shutter look of film. And it's because I want that motion blur that I brought the neutral density filter with me, which will allow me to take long exposures for each frame. So I'm just going to plug the intervalometer into the side here. I'm going to set it to shoot once every 3 seconds. Everything on manual on the camera, 0.6 of a second is the shutter speed. I'm going to switch the lens to manual focus, so the exposure shouldn't change and the lens shouldn't refocus at all. I'm going to shoot another time lapse, this time with a longer shutter speed to see how that works. Mainly because of this very sexy lady up here. And one more with a shorter shutter speed. So I've got 3 different time lapses with 3 different shutter speeds, so hopefully this should show you how they affect the overall film. So I've set a new sequence at 25 frames a second. I'm going to go to preferences, and I'm going to go to timeline. I'm going to set the still image duration to be 1 frame, and then I'm going to import my footage. Now I'm just going to select all and drag them onto my timeline. Just going to scale them to frame size and now render that. So this first clip is 0.6 of a second and it was shot once every 3 seconds, so it's got a bit of motion blur in it, but it's not quite the 180-degree shutter angle of film. Now this second one was done at 1.6 seconds every 2 seconds, so it's much nearer a film ratio in terms of the shutter angle, and I think it's the most successful of the 3. Now this third one was more of an experiment than anything else. It was 1/6 of a second every second, so it's 25 times the speed, but it's quite choppy. It's got a little bit of motion blur in, but the ride was moving so fast that the video doesn't really make any sense. You don't get that smooth motion that you do with the others. So there you go, I hope that's explained a little bit how shutter speed affects time-lapse, and personally I much prefer when you get a good long exposure and you can really feel the motion in the time-lapse, otherwise it just gets too choppy and I'm not a big fan of that. Anyway, I'll see you next time.